100 Facts About NASA. Welcome. Get comfortable, close your eyes if you'd like, and let's journey through 100 fascinating facts about NASA and humanity's exploration of space. Take a deep breath, relax, and drift along with these stories from beyond our world. Fact 1. NASA stands for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. It was established on July 29, 1958, during the height of the Cold War space race. President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the National Aeronautics and Space Act into law, transforming America's approach to space from a military endeavor into a civilian scientific pursuit. The agency opened its doors just 83 days after the legislation was signed, with the urgent mission of catching up to the Soviet Union's early space achievements. Fact 2. Before NASA existed, space exploration was handled by NACA, the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, which focused primarily on aircraft research. Founded in 1915, NACA had spent over 4 decades advancing aviation technology, from developing the cowling that made air-cooled engines more efficient to researching supersonic flight. When NASA absorbed NACA, it inherited approximately 8,000 employees, an annual budget of $100 million, and 3 major research laboratories that would become the foundation of America's space program. Fact 3. NASA's first administrator was T. Keith Glennon, who served from 1958 to 1961 and helped establish the agency's early direction. Glennon came from the presidency of the Case Institute of Technology and had served on the Atomic Energy Commission. During his tenure, he established NASA's organizational structure, absorbed several existing research facilities into the new agency, and oversaw the Mercury program's initial development. He insisted that NASA maintain its civilian character and prioritize scientific research over military applications. Fact 4. The iconic NASA logo, known as the meatball, features a blue sphere representing a planet, white stars, a red chevron symbolizing aeronautics, and an orbiting spacecraft. Designed by employee James Matarelli in 1959, the logo's circular spacecraft orbit represents space travel, while the stars honor the astronauts. The red V-shaped wing, called a hypersonic wing, pays tribute to aeronautics. This beloved design has become one of the most recognizable symbols in the world, representing humanity's dreams of exploration. Fact 5. In 1975, NASA introduced a modernized logo called the Worm, which was used until 1992 and has recently made a nostalgic comeback. Designed by Richard Dan and Bruce Blackburn, the sleek, red, stylized letters were meant to represent a more contemporary and forward-thinking agency. The design eliminated the imagery entirely, using only letter forms. Though it was retired in 1992 in favor of the classic meatball, the Worm logo returned in 2020 for certain missions, including appearing on SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft, delighting fans of retro space aesthetics. Fact 6. NASA's headquarters is located in Washington, D.C., but the agency operates 10 major field centers across the United States. Each center has a specialized focus, from Kennedy Space Center's launch operations in Florida to Ames Research Center's aeronautics research in California. These facilities employ over 18,000 civil servants and work with hundreds of thousands of contractors and partners. Together, they form a network of expertise spanning every aspect of aerospace, from designing spacecraft to training astronauts, from tracking deep space probes to developing technologies for future missions. Fact 7. The Kennedy Space Center in Florida has been the launch site for every United States human spaceflight since 1968. Located on Merritt Island, the center covers 144,000 acres, an area roughly the size of Chicago. Its iconic vehicle assembly building is one of the largest buildings in the world by volume, standing 525 feet tall. The building is so massive that it has its own weather system, with rain clouds forming near the ceiling on humid days. The center shares the island with the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge, creating a unique juxtaposition of cutting-edge technology and pristine nature. Fact 8. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, is the primary center for robotic exploration of the solar system. Founded in the 1930s by Caltech graduate students who were experimenting with rockets, JPL is actually managed by Caltech for NASA. The laboratory has been responsible for managing missions to every planet in our solar system, as well as numerous asteroids, comets, and moons. From the first American satellite, Explorer 1, to the Mars rovers exploring the Red Planet today, JPL has been at the forefront of robotic space exploration for over 6 decades. Fact 9. Project Mercury was NASA's first human spaceflight program, running from 1958 to 1963 with the goal of putting a human in orbit. The program involved 20 unmanned launches to test the equipment, 6 flights with astronauts, and countless hours of training and preparation. Each Mercury spacecraft was only large enough for a single astronaut and measured just 6 feet tall and 6 feet wide at its base. The capsules were launched atop modified ballistic missiles, Redstone rockets for the suborbital flights and Atlas rockets for the orbital missions, adapting military technology for peaceful exploration. Fact 10. The Mercury 7 were NASA's first group of astronauts, selected in 1959. They became instant American heroes. Chosen from 110 military test pilots, the 7 men were Scott Carpenter, Gordon Cooper, John Glenn, Gus Grissom, Wally Schirra, Alan Shepard, and Deke Slayton. Each was required to be under 40 years old, stand shorter than 5 feet 11 inches to fit in the cramped capsule, possess a bachelor's degree or equivalent, be a qualified jet pilot with at least 1,500 hours of flying time, and be a graduate of test pilot school. Their selection was announced at a press conference that turned them into overnight celebrities, and their courage helped inspire a generation. Fact 11. Alan Shepard became the first American in space on May 5, 1961, aboard Freedom 7, in a suborbital flight lasting just over 15 minutes. His capsule reached an altitude of 116 miles before splashing down in the Atlantic Ocean 302 miles from the launch site. During the mission, Shepard experienced about 5 minutes of weightlessness and proved that humans could function in space despite the fears of some doctors. The flight came just 23 days after Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space, intensifying the space race. Before launch, Shepard famously spent nearly 4 hours lying on his back in the capsule during delays, eventually having to urinate in his spacesuit when told he couldn't leave the rocket. Fact 12. John Glenn became the first American to orbit Earth on February 20, 1962, completing 3 orbits in the Friendship 7 capsule. During his nearly 5-hour mission, Glenn circled the planet at speeds reaching 17,500 miles per hour, witnessing 3 sunrises and 3 sunsets. He described seeing tiny particles floating past his window, which he called fireflies, later determined to be ice crystals from the spacecraft's water supply. The mission experienced a tense moment when a warning light suggested the heat shield might be loose, threatening to burn up during re-entry. Mission Control instructed Glenn to keep the retro-rocket package attached during re-entry, contrary to normal procedure, as an extra precaution. Glenn landed safely, becoming an instant American hero and later serving as a United States Senator for 25 years. Fact 13. The Mercury spacecraft were so small that astronauts joked they didn't get in them, they put them on like tight-fitting suits. The interior offered only about 30 cubic feet of space, roughly equivalent to a phone booth. Astronauts had to lie on their backs in a custom-molded seat, with their knees bent up to fit the cramped dimensions. The capsule had 120 controls and 55 electrical switches for the pilot to monitor and operate. Despite the confined space, every Mercury astronaut named their own capsule with names like Liberty Bell 7 and Sigma 7, each adding the number 7 to honor their group of 7 astronauts. The spacecraft was designed for emergency escape, with an explosive tower that could pull the capsule away from the rocket in case of launch failure. Fact 14. Project Gemini followed Mercury, designed to develop techniques needed for the Apollo moon missions, including spacewalks and orbital rendezvous. Running from 1961 to 1966, the program conducted 10 crewed missions that tested the ability of astronauts to work outside their spacecraft, perfected docking with other vehicles in orbit, and proved humans could survive in space for up to 2 weeks, the time needed for a moon mission. The Gemini spacecraft were named after the constellation representing the twins Castor and Pollux, appropriate since the capsule carried 2 astronauts. Each mission pushed the boundaries further, building confidence and expertise that would be essential for reaching the moon. Fact 15. The Gemini spacecraft carried 2 astronauts, twice the capacity of Mercury, and featured a computer guidance system. This onboard computer, though primitive by today's standards, was revolutionary for its time, weighing 59 pounds and using just 4,096 words of memory. The spacecraft measured 19 feet long and provided 50% more interior volume per crew member than Mercury, though it was still quite cramped. Unlike Mercury, Gemini could change its orbit, maneuver to dock with other vehicles, and be piloted with precision. The capsule featured ejection seats for emergency escape during launch, replacing the Mercury's escape tower system. Gemini proved that spacecraft could be sophisticated machines with multiple systems working together, paving the way for the even more complex Apollo vehicles. Fact 16. Ed White performed America's first spacewalk on June 3, 1965, during Gemini 4, spending 23 minutes outside the spacecraft. Using a handheld maneuvering unit that expelled compressed oxygen, White floated freely in the void, tethered to the spacecraft by a 25-foot umbilical cord that provided oxygen and communication. He later described the experience as the most comfortable part of the mission and was so reluctant to come back inside that Mission Control had to order him to return multiple times. When he finally re-entered the capsule, White said it was the saddest moment of his life. The spacewalk proved that astronauts could work in the vacuum of space, wearing a specially designed suit that protected them from extreme temperatures ranging from 250 degrees on the sunlit side to minus 250 degrees in shadow. Fact 17. The Apollo program was announced by President John F. Kennedy in 1961, with the ambitious goal of landing humans on the moon before the decade's end. On May 25, 1961, just 3 weeks after Alan Shepard's brief suborbital flight, Kennedy stood before Congress and declared that America should commit itself to landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth before 1970. At the time, NASA had accumulated only 15 minutes of human spaceflight experience. The announcement was as much a political decision as a scientific one, designed to demonstrate American technological superiority during the Cold War. The program would ultimately cost $25.4 billion, equivalent to about $280 billion today, and involve the work of over 400,000 people across thousands of companies and universities. Fact 18. The Saturn V rocket remains the most powerful rocket ever successfully flown, standing 363 feet tall and weighing 6.2 million pounds at launch. Taller than a 36-story building and about the height of the Statue of Liberty from ground to torch, the Saturn V was an engineering marvel. Fully fueled, it weighed as much as 400 elephants, with the vast majority of that weight being propellant. The rocket consisted of 3 stages, each designed to burn and then fall away as the spacecraft climbed toward the moon. Designed by a team led by Wernher von Braun at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, the Saturn V had a perfect operational record, with no launch failures and 13 flights. The sound of its launch was so loud that it could be heard from 60 miles away, and the vibrations were strong enough to be felt at the same distance. Fact 19. The first stage of the Saturn V burned 20 tons of fuel per second and produced 7.6 million pounds of thrust. Powered by 5 massive F-1 engines, each 19 feet tall and weighing over 9 tons, the first stage consumed liquid oxygen and kerosene at an astonishing rate. The engines together gulped down 15 tons of fuel every second, draining an Olympic-sized swimming pool in under 3 minutes. This tremendous power lifted the entire rocket off the launch pad and accelerated it to 6,000 miles per hour in just 2.5 minutes, reaching an altitude of 42 miles before the first stage separated and fell back to Earth. The F-1 engines were so powerful that their exhaust flames extended 80 feet beyond the nozzles. Engineers had to develop new metallurgy techniques and manufacturing processes just to build engines capable of withstanding such extreme conditions. Fact 20. Apollo 1 ended in tragedy during a launch rehearsal test on January 27, 1967, when a cabin fire claimed the lives of astronauts Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee. During what was supposed to be a routine test on the launch pad, a spark from damaged wiring ignited in the pure oxygen atmosphere inside the capsule. The fire spread with terrifying speed, and the astronauts were unable to open the inward opening hatch before being overcome by smoke and toxic gases. The tragedy occurred in less than 30 seconds. All 3 men were experienced and talented, with Grissom having flown in both Mercury and Gemini programs, White being America's first spacewalker, and Chaffee preparing for his first spaceflight. The nation mourned, and NASA confronted the devastating realization that the rush to meet Kennedy's deadline had led to dangerous compromises in safety. Fact 21. The Apollo 1 tragedy led to major redesigns of the spacecraft, with over 1,300 changes made to improve safety. The investigation revealed numerous problems, including flammable materials in the cabin, vulnerable wiring, and a complex hatch design. NASA spent the next 20 months completely redesigning the command module, replacing flammable materials with fire-resistant alternatives, redesigning the hatch to open outward in seconds, improving wiring insulation, and switching from a pure oxygen atmosphere on the ground to a nitrogen-oxygen mix. The oxygen system in flight still used pure oxygen at lower pressure to reduce fire risk. Plumbing and wiring were rerouted away from potential ignition sources. The agency also established more rigorous testing protocols and safety reviews. Though the cost in time, money, and especially human life was immense, these changes likely saved lives on subsequent missions and established a safety culture that continues today. Fact 22. Apollo 8 was the first crewed mission to leave Earth's orbit, circle the Moon and return, on Christmas Eve 1968. In a bold decision made just 4 months before launch, NASA decided to send the crew around the Moon instead of testing the lunar module in Earth orbit. The 3 astronauts, Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders, became the first humans to see the far side of the Moon with their own eyes, the first to witness Earthrise, and the first to escape Earth's gravitational influence. They orbited the Moon 10 times over 20 hours, coming within 70 miles of the lunar surface. On Christmas Eve, they read from the Book of Genesis during a live television broadcast watched by an estimated 1 billion people around the world, then 1/4 of Earth's population. The mission proved that humans could travel to the Moon and return safely, setting the stage for the landing missions to come. Fact 23. The famous Earthrise photograph was taken by Apollo 8 astronaut William Anders and changed how humanity viewed our planet. As the spacecraft emerged from behind the Moon during its 4th orbit, Anders looked out the window and saw Earth rising above the lunar horizon, a brilliant blue and white marble against the black void of space. He quickly grabbed a camera with color film and captured the image, later saying, "We came all this way to explore the Moon, and the most important thing is that we discovered the Earth." The photograph showed our planet as a fragile oasis in the emptiness of space, with no visible borders or divisions. It became one of the most influential environmental photographs ever taken, helping launch the modern environmental movement and appearing on the first Earth Day poster in 1970. Wilderness photographer Galen Rowell called it the most influential environmental photograph ever taken. Fact 24. Apollo 11 landed on the Moon on July 20, 1969, fulfilling Kennedy's promise with just months to spare. The lunar module Eagle, carrying Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, separated from the command module Columbia, piloted by Michael Collins, and began its descent to the surface. As they descended, Armstrong realized the automated landing system was taking them toward a crater filled with large boulders, unsuitable for landing. With fuel running critically low, he took manual control and flew the craft horizontally, searching for a smoother spot. Mission Control called out altitude and fuel levels in tense increments. With less than 30 seconds of fuel remaining, the lunar module touched down in the Sea of Tranquility. Armstrong radioed the now famous words, "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." At Mission Control, controllers who had been holding their breath erupted in celebration. Humanity had reached another world. Fact 25. Neil Armstrong's first step onto the lunar surface occurred at 10:56 p.m. Eastern Time, watched by an estimated 600 million people worldwide. After spending nearly 7 hours preparing and checking their equipment, Armstrong opened the hatch and began descending the 9-rung ladder. A camera on the lunar module's exterior broadcast grainy black and white images to Earth. Stepping onto the footpad, Armstrong tested the surface consistency, then placed his left foot onto the Moon's powdery surface. The historic moment was watched in homes, public squares, and gathering places across the globe, from Times Square in New York to the streets of London, from Tokyo to Sydney. People stayed up through the night or woke before dawn, depending on their time zone, to witness history. In that moment, Armstrong and all of humanity achieved what had been dreamed of for millennia. The Moon was no longer an unreachable light in the sky, but a place where humans could walk. Fact 26. Armstrong's famous words were, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." He later said he intended to say, "a man." The intended meaning was to contrast one individual's action with the achievement of all humanity, but in the excitement and stress of the moment, with a quarter-second transmission delay and static-filled audio, the article "a" was either not said or not heard clearly. Armstrong maintained for the rest of his life that he said, "a man," and some audio analysis has suggested the "a" might be there, buried in static. Regardless, the words became one of history's most famous quotations, capturing the magnitude of the moment. Armstrong had thought about what to say during the months of preparation, knowing that his words would be remembered. The phrase elegantly expressed both the personal achievement and the universal significance of humanity's first steps on another world. Fact 27. Buzz Aldrin joined Armstrong on the surface while Michael Collins orbited alone above them in the command module Columbia. Collins had the loneliest job in history, circling the moon by himself every 2 hours, for 48 minutes of each orbit, passing behind the moon with no radio contact with Earth or his crewmates. He was further from other humans than anyone had ever been, yet he later wrote that he felt fine, not lonely at all. While Armstrong and Aldrin explored the surface below, Collins kept the command module functioning, ready to rescue his crewmates if needed. He photographed potential landing sites for future missions and maintained the spacecraft that would be their ride home. If anything had gone wrong with Eagle, Collins was prepared to leave his crewmates behind and return to Earth alone, a scenario he had rehearsed but hoped never to face. He said he would have been a marked man for life, as the only one to return. Fortunately, the rendezvous and docking went perfectly. Fact 28. The astronauts left behind a plaque reading, "Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon. We came in peace for all mankind." Attached to the ladder of the lunar module's descent stage, which remained on the moon, the plaque bore the signatures of the 3 Apollo 11 astronauts and President Richard Nixon. The words, "for all mankind," were carefully chosen to emphasize that this was not just an American achievement but a human one. Also left behind were medals honoring Soviet cosmonauts Yuri Gagarin and Vladimir Komarov, who had died in the pursuit of space exploration, a gesture of respect that transcended Cold War rivalries. The items remain on the moon today, undisturbed in the airless environment, a permanent memorial to that historic day. The plaque serves as a message to any future visitors, human or otherwise, about the species that first arrived there and the spirit in which they came. Fact 29. The lunar module that landed on the moon was named Eagle. Its descent engine had only 25 seconds of fuel remaining when it touched down. The landing was far more dramatic than most people realized at the time. As Armstrong manually piloted Eagle to avoid the boulder field, fuel gauges dropped rapidly. At 30 seconds remaining, Mission Control made the decision to call bingo fuel, meaning they were at the minimum needed for an abort. But Armstrong was committed to the landing, and mission rules gave the commander final authority. The engine consumed its propellant at a rate of 100 pounds per second during the descent. When Eagle's probes, extending 5 feet below the footpads, touched the surface and triggered a contact light, Armstrong immediately shut down the engine. The craft dropped the final few feet to the surface. Post-mission analysis revealed they had approximately 25 seconds of hover time remaining, though the tanks were never designed to run completely dry. It was closer than anyone wanted, but Armstrong's skill and calm under pressure had prevailed. Fact 30. Armstrong had to manually pilot the lunar module to a safe landing site, flying over a crater filled with boulders. The computer was guiding them to a landing area designated West Crater, but Armstrong could see through his window that the site was littered with rocks the size of automobiles. Landing there would have meant certain disaster, likely tipping the lunar module or damaging its landing legs. Armstrong switched to semi-automatic control, letting the computer handle descent rate while he controlled horizontal movement. He flew Eagle forward, essentially hovering over the lunar surface at about 300 feet altitude while moving horizontally at speeds up to 40 miles per hour. Back on Earth, mission controllers watched their screens anxiously as fuel numbers decreased, but they trusted Armstrong's judgment. He had trained for thousands of hours in simulators and was considered one of the best test pilots of his generation. His calm, measured decision-making in those critical final seconds of the descent demonstrated why he had been chosen to command the first landing. Fact 31. The astronauts spent 21.5 hours on the lunar surface and collected 47.5 pounds of lunar samples. During their single moonwalk, lasting 2 hours and 31 minutes, Armstrong and Aldrin gathered rocks and soil using specially designed tools, documenting each sample with photographs. They used a long-handled scoop to collect loose soil, a hammer to chip rock samples, and tongs to pick up specimens without bending over in their stiff spacesuits. The samples were carefully packed in sealed containers to preserve any volatile compounds and protect them from contamination by Earth's atmosphere. They also deployed scientific experiments, including a seismometer to detect moonquakes and a laser reflector that scientists still use today to measure the exact distance from Earth to the Moon by bouncing laser beams off it. The lunar samples would prove invaluable, revealing that the Moon formed about 4.5 billion years ago, likely from debris after a Mars-sized object collided with the young Earth. Scientists are still studying these samples today, and some remain sealed, preserved for future analysis with more advanced techniques. Fact 32. When the astronauts returned to Earth, they spent 3 weeks in quarantine in case they brought back any lunar pathogens. NASA took the theoretical risk of moon germs seriously, even though most scientists considered it extremely unlikely. The quarantine began the moment the command module splashed down in the Pacific Ocean. After being recovered by helicopter, the crew entered a modified Airstream trailer on the aircraft carrier USS Hornet, where they could see President Nixon but spoke to him through a window. They were then flown to the Lunar Receiving Laboratory at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, where they lived in isolation along with a team of support personnel. The facility included living quarters, a medical area, and laboratories for testing the lunar samples. The astronauts spent their time being examined, debriefed, and resting. They celebrated Aldrin's birthday in quarantine and watched as the world celebrated their achievement. After 21 days with no signs of illness, they were released to a hero's welcome, having proven that the Moon harbored no dangerous organisms. Fact 33. 6 Apollo missions successfully landed 12 astronauts on the Moon between 1969 and 1972. After Apollo 11's triumph, 5 more missions explored different regions of the lunar surface: Apollo 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Each mission grew progressively more ambitious and scientifically focused, with longer stays and more extensive exploration. The astronauts were trained as field geologists, learning to identify different rock types and geological features. They collected a total of 842 pounds of lunar rocks, soil, and core samples from various locations, providing a comprehensive survey of the Moon's composition and history. These dozen men, the only humans to have walked on another world, ranged in age from 36 to 41 at the time of their moonwalks. Their missions advanced our understanding of the solar system's formation and demonstrated humanity's capability for sustained exploration beyond Earth. Fact 34. Apollo 13 experienced a catastrophic oxygen tank explosion on April 13, 1970, forcing the mission to be aborted. About 56 hours into the mission, when the spacecraft was 200,000 miles from Earth, astronaut Jack Swigert performed a routine procedure to stir the oxygen tanks. Moments later, the crew heard a loud bang and felt the spacecraft shudder. Warning lights illuminated and systems began failing. Swigert radioed to Houston, "Okay Houston, we've had a problem here." One of the 2 oxygen tanks had exploded, damaging the other tank and cutting off power and life support in the command module. The explosion also damaged the ship's high-gain antenna, fuel cells, and attitude control system. With the Moon landing now impossible and the crew's survival uncertain, the mission immediately became a desperate rescue operation. The 3 astronauts, Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes, faced a perilous journey home in a crippled spacecraft. Fact 35. The Apollo 13 crew used the lunar module as a lifeboat to survive their return journey, in what NASA calls its finest hour. The lunar module Aquarius, designed to support 2 men for 2 days on the Moon, would have to sustain 3 men for 4 days on the journey home. Engineers and astronauts on the ground worked frantically to develop procedures for conserving power, water, and oxygen. The crew moved into the cramped lunar module, shutting down the command module to preserve its battery power for re-entry. Temperatures inside dropped to just 38 degrees Fahrenheit as they powered down unnecessary systems. Condensation covered the walls, and the crew became cold, exhausted, and dehydrated. Carbon dioxide levels rose dangerously until Mission Control devised a solution using plastic bags, cardboard, and tape to adapt the command module's square lithium hydroxide canisters to work with the lunar module's round receptacles. After using the moon's gravity to slingshot around the far side and accelerate back toward Earth, the crew fired the lunar module's engine to adjust their trajectory. 4 days after the explosion, they transferred back to the command module, jettisoned the lunar module, and splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean. The successful rescue demonstrated the skill, ingenuity, and determination of the entire NASA team. Fact 36. The phrase "Houston, we've had a problem" became iconic, though it's often misquoted as "Houston, we have a problem." The actual radio transmission began with Swigert saying, "I believe we've had a problem here," followed moments later by Commander Jim Lovell saying, "Houston, we've had a problem." The use of past tense had rather than present tense have has been debated by language enthusiasts, though in the stress of the moment, either was appropriate. The calm, professional tone of the transmission belied the dire emergency unfolding. This understated communication style was typical of test pilots and astronauts, trained to remain composed under pressure. The phrase has since entered popular culture, often used to describe any serious unexpected problem. The 1995 film Apollo 13 starring Tom Hanks used the present tense version "Houston, we have a problem," which is how most people remember it today, though it's not quite historically accurate. Fact 37. Apollo 17 in December 1972 was the last crewed mission to the moon. Eugene Cernan was the last person to walk on its surface. Commander Cernan, lunar module pilot Harrison Schmitt, and command module pilot Ron Evans spent 3 days exploring the Taurus-Littrow Valley, a region chosen for its geological diversity. Schmitt, a trained geologist, was the only professional scientist to walk on the moon. Before climbing the ladder to leave the lunar surface for the final time, Cernan spoke words he had prepared: "As we leave the moon at Taurus-Littrow, we leave as we came, and God willing as we shall return, with peace and hope for all mankind." He then traced his daughter's initials, TDC, in the lunar dust where they remain today. The mission collected 243 pounds of samples and spent over 22 hours exploring in 3 moonwalks. Since December 14, 1972, no human has traveled beyond low Earth orbit, making the gap in lunar exploration now over 50 years, far longer than anyone expected at the time. Fact 38. During Apollo 15, astronauts drove the first lunar roving vehicle, allowing them to explore over 17 miles of the moon's surface. The electric car, nicknamed the Moon Buggy, was a marvel of engineering, designed to fold up inside the lunar module and unfold on the surface. Built by Boeing and General Motors, it weighed just 460 pounds on Earth but could carry over 1,000 pounds of equipment and astronauts in the moon's lower gravity. The vehicle had 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel steering, and could travel at a top speed of 8 miles per hour, though astronauts rarely went that fast. Its wire mesh wheels, made of woven steel, were designed to grip the lunar soil without getting stuck. The rover was powered by 236-volt silver zinc batteries and navigated using a gyroscope and odometer system. It carried communications equipment, allowing live television broadcasts of the astronauts driving across the moon's surface. Commander David Scott and pilot James Irwin used it to travel much farther from the lunar module than previous missions, reaching geological sites that would have been impossible to access on foot in the bulky spacesuits. Fact 39. The American flag planted by Apollo 11 was actually knocked over by the exhaust from the lunar module's ascent engine. Buzz Aldrin reported seeing the flag fall as Eagle lifted off from the surface to reunite with the command module. The flags on subsequent missions were placed farther from the lunar module to prevent the same fate, and most of those are still standing according to images from lunar reconnaissance satellites. However, decades of exposure to harsh ultraviolet radiation from the unfiltered sun has likely bleached all the flags white by now, stripping away the red and blue colors. The flags weren't meant to be permanent monuments, they were standard nylon flags purchased from a government supply catalog for about $5 each. Special mechanisms had to be designed to make them appear to wave, since there's no atmosphere on the moon, with a horizontal pole at the top to extend the fabric. Despite their faded condition, these flags represent one of humanity's greatest adventures. Fact 40. Footprints left on the moon will remain for millions of years because there's no wind or water to erode them. The moon has no atmosphere, meaning no weather of any kind. Rain doesn't fall, wind doesn't blow, and erosion occurs only through micrometeorite impacts and temperature cycling over vast timescales. The astronauts' boot prints in the powdery regolith are as crisp today as when they were made over 50 years ago. Tire tracks from the lunar roving vehicles remain perfectly preserved, looking like they were just driven yesterday. Even the gentle impressions where astronauts knelt to collect samples are unchanged. The only thing that will eventually disturb these marks is the very slow process of space weathering and the occasional impact of tiny meteorites. In millions of years, when humans may have long established permanent settlements on the moon, these first footprints might be preserved as historical monuments, testimony to the courage and determination of those early explorers. Fact 41. Skylab was America's first space station, launched in 1973 and hosting 3 crews before being abandoned in 1974. Constructed from a converted Saturn V third stage, Skylab provided 12,400 cubic feet of living space, larger than a typical house. The station measured 118 feet long and weighed 170,000 pounds. It was equipped with a solar observatory, multiple telescopes, and facilities for conducting experiments in materials science, life sciences, and Earth observation. 3 separate crews visited Skylab for progressively longer durations, with the final crew staying for 84 days, setting an American space endurance record that stood for years. The astronauts conducted experiments on the effects of zero gravity, observed the sun in unprecedented detail, and proved that humans could live and work productively in space for extended periods. The station also served as a testing ground for many technologies and procedures that would later be used aboard the International Space Station. Fact 42. Skylab was damaged during launch when a meteoroid shield tore off, also ripping away one solar panel and jamming another. Just 63 seconds after liftoff on May 14, 1973, aerodynamic forces ripped off a thin aluminum shield designed to protect the station from micrometeoroids and shield it from the sun's heat. The debris tore off one of 2 main solar panels completely and jammed the other so it couldn't deploy. Without the shield and with limited power generation, temperatures inside Skylab soared to 126 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to damage equipment and release toxic fumes from materials inside. The first crew's launch was delayed 10 days while engineers devised repair procedures. This unexpected crisis transformed what was supposed to be a routine science mission into a dramatic rescue operation, requiring the crew to perform repairs and modifications that were never planned or trained for on Earth. Fact 43. The first Skylab crew had to perform an emergency spacewalk to deploy a makeshift sunshade, saving the station from overheating. Astronauts Pete Conrad, Joseph Kerwin, and Paul Weitz arrived at the damaged station on May 25, 1973, finding it nearly uninhabitable due to the extreme heat. They quickly deployed a parasol-like shade through a scientific airlock, a solution designed by engineers on the ground in just days. The aluminized nylon shade, resembling a large beach umbrella, reduced the internal temperature from 126 degrees to a more manageable 75 degrees within hours. A few weeks later, the crew performed a challenging spacewalk to deploy a larger, more permanent sunshade over the damaged area and to free the jammed solar panel, restoring more power to the station. The crew used bolt cutters and other tools in a delicate operation that required them to work in direct sunlight while clinging to the station's exterior. Their successful repairs demonstrated the value of human adaptability in space, showing that astronauts could solve unexpected problems that no automated system could handle. Fact 44. Skylab fell back to Earth in 1979, scattering debris across the Australian outback and the Indian Ocean. Originally expected to remain in orbit until the 1980s, increased solar activity caused Earth's atmosphere to expand, increasing drag on the station and accelerating its decay. NASA attempted to control the descent using Skylab's remaining maneuvering systems, aiming for a largely unpopulated area. On July 11, 1979, the 77-ton station disintegrated during re-entry, with pieces surviving the heat of re-entry and falling across a 2,500-mile path from the Indian Ocean across Western Australia. No one was injured, though debris fell near the town of Esperance, which humorously issued NASA a $400 fine for littering. The spectacular re-entry was watched by people across the southern hemisphere, with chunks of the station, some weighing hundreds of pounds, becoming instant collectibles. The event highlighted the growing problem of space debris and the need for controlled deorbits of large spacecraft. Parts of Skylab are now displayed in museums around the world, tangible remnants of America's first space station. Fact 45. The Space Shuttle program began in 1981 with Columbia's first flight, ushering in an era of reusable spacecraft. On April 12, 1981, exactly 20 years after Yuri Gagarin's historic first spaceflight, Space Shuttle Columbia launched from Kennedy Space Center with astronauts John Young and Robert Crippen aboard. The mission, designated STS-1, was the first orbital spacecraft to carry a crew on its maiden flight, a testament to confidence in the design. The shuttle represented a revolutionary concept, a spacecraft that could launch like a rocket, maneuver in orbit like a spacecraft, and land like an airplane, then be refurbished and flown again. This reusability was intended to make space access routine and economical, ushering in a new era where launching satellites, conducting experiments, and eventually building space stations would become regular activities. The successful two-day flight proved the shuttle's basic design and began a program that would continue for 30 years. Fact 46. 5 space shuttles were built for operational missions: Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, Atlantis, and Endeavour. Each orbiter was named after historic seafaring vessels of exploration and discovery. Columbia, named after the Boston-based sloop that explored the Pacific Northwest, was the first to fly. Challenger honored the British naval research vessel HMS Challenger. Discovery took its name from ships commanded by Captain James Cook and Henry Hudson. Atlantis was named after a research vessel operated by the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. Endeavour, the newest, was named through a school competition after Captain Cook's ship, and was built to replace Challenger after its loss. A sixth shuttle, Enterprise, was built as a test vehicle for atmospheric flight tests but never flew in space. Each operational shuttle flew dozens of missions, with Discovery completing 39 flights, the most of any orbiter. Together they launched satellites, conducted scientific research, serviced the Hubble Space Telescope, and were essential in building the International Space Station. Fact 47. The Space Shuttle was the first spacecraft to land on a runway like an airplane, though it had no engines for landing and glided unpowered. After re-entering Earth's atmosphere at 17,500 miles per hour, enduring temperatures of up to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit on its heat shield, the shuttle would transform into a glider for its final approach. The orbiter would make a series of S-turns to bleed off speed and altitude, then line up for landing at Kennedy Space Center in Florida or Edwards Air Force Base in California. With a glide ratio of about 4.5 to 1, much steeper than a commercial airliner, the shuttle descended rapidly, giving the commander just one chance to land correctly with no possibility of going around for another attempt. Astronauts described flying the shuttle as like landing a brick with wings. The orbiter touched down at speeds around 215 miles per hour, deploying a drag chute to help slow down on the runway. The entire landing sequence from deorbit burn to wheel stop took about an hour, with the actual gliding portion lasting about 30 minutes. Fact 48. Each shuttle was designed to fly at least 100 missions, though none came close to that number. The original concept envisioned the shuttle fleet flying dozens of times per year, making space access routine and affordable. Engineers believed that with proper maintenance and refurbishment between flights, each orbiter could complete a century of missions. However, the reality proved far more complex and expensive than anticipated. Preparing a shuttle for flight required months of work by thousands of technicians, with each of the 2.5 million parts needing inspection, testing, and often replacement. The heat-resistant tiles on the orbiter's exterior, over 24,000 of them, had to be individually examined and often replaced after each flight. Discovery, the workhorse of the fleet, completed 39 missions over 27 years, the most of any shuttle. Columbia managed 28 missions before its tragic loss. The program averaged only 4 to 5 flights per year, far fewer than the 24 per year originally projected. The shuttle proved to be more of a complex experimental vehicle requiring extensive care than the space truck that had been envisioned. Fact 49. The Challenger disaster occurred on January 28, 1986, just 73 seconds after launch, killing all 7 crew members. It was an unusually cold morning at Kennedy Space Center, with temperatures hovering around freezing, well below the design specifications for the solid rocket boosters. As Challenger cleared the tower and accelerated through the cloud layer, engineers watching telemetry noticed puffs of gray smoke from the right solid rocket booster. At 59 seconds, a small flame appeared at a joint in the booster. By 73 seconds into the flight, the flame had grown into a blowtorch that burned through the external fuel tank. The tank ruptured, and the resulting explosive forces tore the shuttle apart at an altitude of 46,000 feet. The crew cabin remained intact as it fell from the sky, impacting the Atlantic Ocean at over 200 miles per hour. Francis Scobie, Michael Smith, Ronald McNair, Ellison Onizuka, Gregory Jarvis, Judith Resnick, and Krista McAuliffe perished, shocking a nation that had come to see shuttle flights as routine. Millions watched the disaster unfold on live television, many of them schoolchildren tuning in because of McAuliffe's presence aboard. Fact 50. A failed O-ring seal in one of the solid rocket boosters caused the Challenger tragedy, which was linked to unusually cold temperatures at launch. The O-rings, rubber seals designed to prevent hot gases from leaking out of the joints in the segmented solid rocket boosters, became stiff and less pliable in cold temperatures. Engineers at Morton Thiokol, the company that manufactured the boosters, had warned that launching in temperatures below 53 degrees Fahrenheit posed risks, and had recommended delaying the launch. The temperature at launch time was 36 degrees, far below what the O-rings had been tested for. However, schedule pressures and the desire to avoid further delays led managers to overrule the engineers' concerns. The investigation revealed a flawed decision-making process where safety concerns were dismissed and launch fever had taken precedence over engineering judgment. Physicist Richard Feynman, serving on the investigation committee, famously demonstrated the problem by dunking an O-ring sample in ice water during a televised hearing, showing how it lost its resilience in the cold. The disaster led to a complete redesign of the joint and seal system and a wholesale re-evaluation of NASA's safety culture. Fact 51. Among Challenger's crew was Krista McAuliffe, a teacher who would have been the first civilian in space. Selected from over 11,000 applicants for NASA's Teacher in Space program, McAuliffe was a high school social studies teacher from Concord, New Hampshire. She had planned to teach lessons from space, broadcast to students across America, making space exploration relatable to young people. Her presence on the mission had generated enormous public interest, with schools across the country planning to watch the launch. McAuliffe's selection represented NASA's effort to make space accessible to ordinary citizens, demonstrating that space was not just for military test pilots but could eventually be open to everyone. Her tragic death, along with her 6 crewmates, struck an especially emotional chord with the public. She left behind a husband and 2 children, and her legacy lives on through scholarships, schools named in her honor, and the Challenger Learning Centers that continue her mission of inspiring students. The Teacher in Space program was suspended after the disaster and never fully revived, though educator astronauts have since flown on shuttle missions after becoming full-time NASA astronauts. Fact 52. The shuttle program was grounded for 32 months after Challenger while safety improvements were implemented. The accident investigation revealed not just technical failures but organizational and cultural problems within NASA. The agency had to redesign the solid rocket booster joints with a safer seal system, adding a 3rd O-ring and changing the joint design to be less susceptible to temperature effects. NASA restructured its management and decision-making processes, giving engineers more authority to stop launches if safety concerns arose. The agency established an independent Office of Safety, Reliability, Maintainability, and Quality Assurance. Launch procedures were revised to be more conservative, with better weather criteria and more thorough pre-launch inspections. When shuttle flights resumed on September 29, 1988, with Discovery's successful mission STS-26, the entire program had been transformed. The loss of Challenger and the long investigation period had served as a painful but necessary lesson about the dangers of complacency in spaceflight. Fact 53. The Hubble Space Telescope was deployed from Space Shuttle Discovery in 1990 and continues to operate today. Named after astronomer Edwin Hubble, who discovered that the universe is expanding, the telescope was launched on April 24, 1990, during mission STS-31. Orbiting at an altitude of about 340 miles above Earth, Hubble was designed to observe the universe in visible ultraviolet and near-infrared light without the distortion caused by Earth's atmosphere. The telescope measures 43.5 feet long, weighs 24,500 pounds, and cost approximately $2.5 billion to build and launch. Its mission was to answer fundamental questions about the universe. How old is it? How fast is it expanding? What is dark matter? Are there planets around other stars? Hubble was designed to be serviced by shuttle astronauts, allowing it to be upgraded and repaired over its lifetime. Over 3 decades later, after 5 servicing missions and numerous upgrades, Hubble continues to make groundbreaking discoveries, far exceeding its original planned 15-year mission lifetime. Fact 54. Hubble was launched with a flawed mirror, but astronauts installed corrective optics during a servicing mission in 1993. Shortly after deployment, scientists discovered that Hubble's primary mirror had been ground to the wrong shape, off by just 2.2 microns, about 1/50th the thickness of a human hair. This tiny error caused spherical aberration, making images blurry and severely limiting the telescope's capabilities. The mistake occurred during manufacturing when a testing device was assembled incorrectly, a crushing blow to the mission team. Media coverage was harsh, with jokes about NASA's $2 billion blunder and late-night comedians having a field day. However, NASA engineers developed an ingenious solution called COSTAR, Corrective Optics Space Telescope Axial Replacement, which worked like corrective glasses for the telescope. In December 1993, during an ambitious 11-day servicing mission, astronauts installed COSTAR and replaced the original camera with a new one containing built-in corrections. The repairs required 5 spacewalks totaling 35 hours, making it one of the most complex and delicate operations ever performed in space. When the first corrected images were released, they were spectacularly sharp, and Hubble was transformed from an embarrassment into one of NASA's greatest success stories. Fact 55. Hubble orbits Earth every 95 minutes at an altitude of about 340 miles, traveling at 17,000 miles per hour. From its vantage point above the atmosphere, the telescope circles our planet over 15 times every day, racing through the shadow of Earth's night and back into brilliant sunlight with each orbit. This rapid day-night cycle presents unique challenges for the telescope's operation and thermal management. Hubble's orbit was specifically chosen to be above most of Earth's atmosphere, where atmospheric turbulence and light pollution don't interfere with observations, but still low enough that shuttle astronauts could reach it for servicing missions. The telescope must constantly adjust its orientation, using a system of 6 gyroscopes to point with incredible precision. Hubble can lock onto a target without deviating more than 7/1000ths of an arc-second, equivalent to being able to hold a laser beam focused on a dime 200 miles away. Every week, Hubble transmits about 150 gigabytes of data to Earth, all of which is made publicly available to researchers and the public, democratizing access to some of the universe's most spectacular views. Fact 56. The telescope has made over 1.5 million observations and helped determine the age of the universe at approximately 13.8 billion years. Hubble has observed everything from planets in our own solar system to the most distant galaxies ever seen, some so far away that their light has traveled for over 13 billion years to reach us. The telescope has captured images of stellar nurseries where new stars are being born, documented the life cycles of dying stars, photographed the collisions of galaxies, and discovered thousands of exoplanets orbiting distant suns. One of its most important discoveries came from observing distant supernovae, which revealed that the universe's expansion is actually accelerating, driven by a mysterious force called dark energy. This discovery led to a Nobel Prize in Physics in 2011. Hubble has also been instrumental in determining the Hubble constant, which measures the rate of the universe's expansion, helping refine our understanding of the cosmos's age and ultimate fate. The data from Hubble has contributed to over 19,000 peer-reviewed scientific papers, making it one of the most productive scientific instruments in history. Fact 57. Hubble's famous Pillars of Creation image shows star-forming regions in the Eagle Nebula, 6,500 light-years away. Captured in 1995 and re-imaged in even greater detail in 2014, this photograph has become one of the most iconic images in astronomy. The pillars are columns of cool interstellar hydrogen gas and dust that are incubators for new stars. Each pillar is several light-years tall, meaning that if you traveled at the speed of light, it would take years to traverse their length. The pillars appear to be eroding under the intense ultraviolet radiation from nearby hot young stars, gradually revealing the newborn stars within. The image captivates not just for its scientific significance but for its aesthetic beauty, resembling vast cosmic sculptures reaching through space. The darker regions within the pillars are areas so dense with dust that they're opaque even to Hubble's powerful vision, hiding secrets of stellar formation within. Astronomers believe the pillars may have actually been destroyed by a supernova shockwave about 6,000 years ago, but because of the vast distance, we won't see their destruction for another 1,000 years as the light carrying that information continues its journey toward Earth. Fact 58. The Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated during re-entry on February 1, 2003, killing all 7 astronauts aboard. After a successful 16-day science mission in orbit, Columbia was returning home when it broke apart over Texas and Louisiana at an altitude of 200,000 feet, just 16 minutes before its scheduled landing. Mission Control lost contact with the crew at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and residents across the region witnessed a bright streak breaking into multiple pieces across the morning sky. The 7 crew members were Commander Rick Husband, pilot William McCool, mission specialists David Brown, Kalpana Chawla, Laurel Clark, and Michael Anderson, along with Israeli astronaut Ilan Ramon, the first Israeli in space. Debris fell across thousands of square miles, with search teams eventually recovering about 84,000 pieces of the shuttle, representing about 38% of the vehicle's dry weight. The tragedy occurred less than 20 years after Challenger, devastating NASA and the nation once again. Fact 59. Columbia's disaster was caused by foam insulation that broke off during launch and damaged the shuttle's heat shield. Approximately 82 seconds after liftoff on January 16, 2003, a suitcase-sized piece of foam insulation broke away from the external fuel tank's left bipod ramp and struck Columbia's left wing at a relative speed of about 500 miles per hour. The foam weighed less than 2 pounds but created a hole about 6 to 10 inches in diameter in the wing's reinforced carbon-carbon heat protection system. At the time, engineers believed foam strikes were a maintenance issue rather than a safety threat, as foam had fallen off on previous missions without catastrophic consequences. During the mission, some engineers suspected the damage might be serious and requested that spy satellites photograph the wing, but managers denied the request, believing nothing could be done anyway. During re-entry, superheated air at 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit penetrated the wing through the hole, progressively destroying the internal structure and leading to the breakup of the entire vehicle. The investigation revealed that organizational culture had again played a role, with schedule pressure and normalization of deviance leading to dangerous assumptions about risk. Fact 60. The Columbia accident led to another grounding period and ultimately contributed to the decision to retire the shuttle program. Shuttle flights were suspended for 2.5 years while NASA addressed the technical and organizational issues revealed by the investigation. The foam shedding problem was addressed through redesigns of the external tank, better application techniques for foam insulation, and increased camera coverage of launches to detect any debris strikes. New procedures were developed for inspecting the shuttle in orbit using cameras and laser scanning, with astronauts performing detailed examinations of the heat shield during every mission. A rescue capability was established, with another shuttle prepared to launch on short notice if a damaged shuttle needed rescue. These safety improvements added significant cost and complexity to every flight. In 2004, President George W. Bush announced the shuttle would be retired after completing the International Space Station, shifting NASA's focus toward returning to the Moon and eventually Mars. The remaining shuttles flew their final missions in 2011, with Atlantis landing on July 21, ending the 30-year program that had flown 135 missions. Fact 61. The International Space Station began construction in 1998 and has been continuously inhabited since November 2000. The first module, Zarya, was launched by Russia on November 20, 1998, followed 2 weeks later by the American module Unity, which was attached during a shuttle mission. The station was assembled piece by piece over more than a decade, requiring over 40 assembly flights and over 160 spacewalks. When the first long-duration crew arrived on November 2, 2000, American Commander Bill Shepard and Russian cosmonauts Yuri Gidzenko and Sergei Krikalev became the station's first residents, beginning an unbroken human presence in space that continues today, over 24 years later. The ISS represents humanity's most expensive single structure, costing approximately $150 billion to build and maintain, shared among the partner nations. It serves as a unique laboratory for conducting experiments in microgravity, studying the effects of long-duration spaceflight on the human body, and testing technologies needed for future deep space exploration. Fact 62. The ISS is a collaborative project involving NASA, Russia's Roscosmos, Europe's ESA, Japan's JAXA, and Canada's CSA. This international partnership represents one of the most significant peaceful collaborations in history, bringing together former Cold War adversaries to work toward common scientific goals. The United States and Russia provide the majority of the station's structure and functionality, with the U.S. operating laboratory and habitation modules, while Russia provides propulsion, life support, and Soyuz spacecraft for crew transportation. Europe contributed the Columbus Laboratory and the Automated Transfer Vehicle cargo spacecraft. Japan added the Kibo Laboratory, the largest single module on the station. Canada provided the Canadarm2 robotic arm and the Dexter robotic maintenance system. 15 countries contributed to the ISS, with crew members from 21 nations having visited. The partnership has remained strong even during periods of geopolitical tension on Earth, demonstrating that cooperation in space can transcend terrestrial conflicts. Astronauts and cosmonauts work together daily, sharing meals, conducting experiments, and maintaining the station regardless of their country's relationships on the ground. Fact 63. The space station orbits Earth at an altitude of about 250 miles and travels at 17,500 miles per hour. At this velocity, the ISS completes one orbit every 92 to 93 minutes, meaning the crew experiences a sunrise and sunset approximately every 45 minutes. The station maintains this precise orbit through occasional reboost maneuvers using Russian Progress cargo vehicles or the station's own thrusters, counteracting the small but continuous atmospheric drag that would otherwise cause it to gradually fall back to Earth. From the ground, the ISS is the third brightest object in the sky after the Sun and Moon, visible to the naked eye as a steady white point of light moving steadily across the heavens. Astronauts aboard can see 90% of Earth's inhabited surface as they pass overhead, witnessing the curve of our planet, the thin blue line of the atmosphere, and the stark contrast between our living world and the black void beyond. The altitude was carefully chosen as a compromise, high enough to reduce atmospheric drag and extend the time between reboost maneuvers, but low enough to be reached by the various spacecraft that visit the station. Fact 64. Astronauts aboard the ISS experience 16 sunrises and sunsets every 24 hours as they circle the planet. This rapid day-night cycle creates unique challenges for maintaining circadian rhythms and sleep patterns. To help crew members maintain a normal sleep schedule, the station operates on Greenwich Mean Time, and astronauts cover windows during sleep periods to block the constantly changing light. The sunrise and sunset views from space are spectacular, with the atmosphere appearing as a thin, vibrant band of colors, transitioning from deep blue through green, yellow, orange, and red in a matter of seconds. During orbital night, the crew can see Earth below illuminated by city lights, lightning from storms appearing as silent flashes, and the faint glow of airglow, a natural phenomenon where oxygen atoms in the upper atmosphere emit a soft green light. Aurora Borealis and Aurora Australis are visible from above rather than below, appearing as shimmering curtains of light dancing below the station. Many astronauts have described the view of Earth from space as life-changing, giving them a profound appreciation for our planet's fragility and beauty. Fact 65. The ISS is the size of a football field and has more livable space than a six-bedroom house. Measuring 356 feet from end to end, about the length of an American football field including the end zones, the station's solar arrays span 239 feet across. The pressurized volume inside the station totals about 32,333 cubic feet, equivalent to the interior of a Boeing 747. This space is divided among various modules serving different purposes: laboratories for conducting experiments, sleeping quarters for the crew, a galley for meals, exercise equipment, storage areas for supplies and equipment, and nodes that connect different modules. Despite this size, the interior can feel cramped because every surface, including walls and ceilings, is covered with equipment, lockers, and experiments. The microgravity environment means there's no up or down, so astronauts can work on any surface, effectively using all three dimensions of space. The station weighs approximately 925,000 pounds, about the same as more than 300 automobiles. Its components were launched piece by piece and assembled in orbit, a construction project that took over a decade and represented one of humanity's greatest engineering achievements. Fact 66. Water is so precious on the ISS that the station recycles about 90% of all water, including astronaut urine and sweat. The Environmental Control and Life Support System collects moisture from the cabin air, including humidity from crew breathing and perspiration, as well as urine, and processes it through a series of filters and purification systems. The water is treated to remove contaminants, minerals, and microorganisms, then tested to ensure it meets stringent purity standards before being used for drinking, food preparation, and oxygen generation. Astronauts joke that yesterday's coffee becomes today's coffee, though the water is actually cleaner than most tap water on Earth. The system is so efficient that very little water needs to be launched to the station, saving significant launch costs and mass. Every drop is accounted for and conserved, with crew members using special wipes rather than showers for bathing, and carefully managing water use during food preparation. The oxygen the crew breathes is generated by electrolysis, splitting recycled water into hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen is vented into space or combined with carbon dioxide to produce more water. This closed-loop system is critical for long-duration missions and will be essential for future journeys to Mars, where resupply from Earth will be impossible. Fact 67. Astronauts must exercise for 2 hours each day on the ISS to prevent muscle and bone loss in microgravity. Without the constant pull of gravity, the human body begins to adapt to the weightless environment in ways that can be harmful. Bones lose density at a rate of about 1 to 2% per month, similar to the bone loss experienced by elderly people with osteoporosis, and muscles atrophy because they no longer need to support the body's weight against gravity. To combat these effects, astronauts follow rigorous exercise programs using specialized equipment adapted for microgravity. The station has a treadmill where astronauts run while wearing a harness that pulls them down to simulate body weight, a stationary bicycle, and a resistance exercise device that simulates weightlifting using vacuum cylinders to create resistance. Despite these efforts, astronauts still experience significant physiological changes during long missions, including cardiovascular deconditioning, vision changes, and immune system alterations. Understanding and mitigating these effects is one of the key research goals of the ISS, essential for planning future missions to Mars that could last 2 to 3 years. When astronauts return to Earth after months in space, they must undergo extensive rehabilitation to regain their strength and readjust to gravity. Fact 68. NASA astronaut Scott Kelly spent 340 consecutive days aboard the ISS in 2015 to 2016, studying the effects of long-duration spaceflight. Kelly's year-long mission, conducted jointly with Russian cosmonaut Mikhail Kornienko, was designed to gather data about how the human body adapts to extended periods in microgravity, information crucial for planning a human mission to Mars. During his time in space, Kelly participated in dozens of experiments, gave hundreds of blood and other biological samples, and documented his experiences through stunning photography and social media posts that captivated millions of followers on Earth. He witnessed over 5,000 sunrises and sunsets, traveled over 143 million miles, and orbited Earth more than 5,400 times. Kelly described experiencing the profound overview effect that many astronauts report, a cognitive shift in awareness caused by seeing Earth from space, leading to a deep appreciation for our planet's fragility and the artificial nature of national borders. He also dealt with the challenges of isolation, missing his family, and the physical discomfort of adapting to weightlessness and then later readapting to gravity. Fact 69. Kelly's identical twin brother Mark remained on Earth, allowing scientists to study genetic changes caused by space travel. This unique situation created an unprecedented opportunity for a controlled study comparing the effects of spaceflight on one twin while the other remained on Earth as a genetic control. Scientists compared various factors including gene expression, cognitive performance, immune function, and the aging of chromosomes through the study of telomeres, protective caps on the ends of chromosomes. The results revealed surprising changes, including alterations in Scott's gene expression, changes to his gut bacteria, and temporarily lengthened telomeres while in space that shortened upon return to Earth, more than they had been before the mission. His immune system showed changes, and his cognition appeared to slow slightly. Most changes returned to normal after he came back to Earth, but some alterations persisted. The twins' study provided valuable insights into how spaceflight affects the human body at the molecular level and raised important questions about the long-term health risks of deep space exploration. Both Kelly brothers have since retired from NASA, but the data from this unique study continues to be analyzed and published, contributing to our understanding of human adaptation to the space environment. Fact 70. The ISS has hosted over 270 individuals from 22 different countries since its first crew arrived. This diverse group includes scientists, engineers, medical doctors, military pilots, and even private citizens who have visited as space tourists. The youngest person to visit was 25-year-old Russian cosmonaut German Titov during early station construction, while the oldest was 77-year-old John Glenn, who returned to space aboard the shuttle in 1998, 36 years after his historic orbital flight. The station has been home to people from the United States, Russia, Japan, Canada, and numerous European nations, as well as visitors from Brazil, Malaysia, South Korea, the United Arab Emirates, and other countries. This international crew has conducted thousands of scientific experiments, maintained and upgraded the station, and hosted dozens of visiting spacecraft. Some astronauts have spent over a year aboard during a single mission, while others have visited for just a week or two. The cumulative time humans have spent living in space aboard the ISS exceeds 23 years of person days, representing an enormous investment in learning how to live and work beyond Earth. The collaboration required to operate such a complex facility with crew members from different nations, speaking different languages and representing different cultures, stands as a testament to what humanity can achieve when working together toward common goals. Fact 71. NASA's Mars exploration program began with the Viking landers in 1976, the first successful landings on the Red Planet. Viking 1 touched down on July 20, 1976, exactly 7 years after Apollo 11's moon landing, while Viking 2 followed on September 3. Each lander was accompanied by an orbiter that mapped the surface and relayed communications. The landers carried sophisticated instruments to analyze soil samples, study the atmosphere, photograph the landscape, and search for signs of microbial life. The biology experiments produced intriguing results that scientists debated for years, with some reactions suggesting biological processes, though most scientists concluded the results were due to unexpected chemical reactions in the Martian soil. The Vikings sent back the first color images of Mars's surface, revealing a rust-colored desert landscape of rocks and dunes under a pinkish sky. Both landers exceeded their design lifetimes significantly, with Viking 1 operating until 1982 and Viking 2 until 1980, providing invaluable data about Martian geology, meteorology, and the search for life. The mission demonstrated that landing on Mars was possible and set the stage for future exploration. Fact 72. The Sojourner rover, part of the Mars Pathfinder mission in 1997, was the first rover to explore another planet. About the size of a microwave oven and weighing just 23 pounds, Sojourner was never intended to travel far or last long, designed for a 7-day mission with possible extension to 30 days. It ended up operating for nearly 3 months, traveling about 330 feet from its lander and analyzing numerous rocks and soil samples with its alpha proton X-ray spectrometer. The tiny rover was controlled from Earth, though the communication delay of up to 20 minutes each way meant operators had to plan its activities carefully and give it some autonomous capability to avoid obstacles. Sojourner's success captured the public imagination and proved that mobile exploration of Mars was feasible. The rover was named after Sojourner Truth, the African-American abolitionist and women's rights activist, in an essay competition won by 12-year-old Valerie Ambrose. The Pathfinder mission, including Sojourner, cost less than $300 million, demonstrating that Mars exploration could be accomplished for a fraction of Viking's billion-dollar budget, paving the way for a new era of more frequent and ambitious Mars missions. Fact 73. The twin rovers Spirit and Opportunity landed on Mars in 2004, designed to last 90 days but far exceeding expectations. Spirit touched down on January 4 in Gusev Crater, while Opportunity arrived on January 25 on Meridiani Planum, on opposite sides of the planet. Each rover was about the size of a golf cart, weighing 384 pounds and equipped with cameras, spectrometers, a microscopic imager, and a rock abrasion tool to grind into Martian rocks and expose fresh surfaces for analysis. Both rovers were designed to travel about 130 feet per day and cover a total distance of about 2,000 feet during their nominal missions. The primary goal was to search for evidence that water once flowed on Mars's surface, examining rocks and soil for minerals and textures that form in the presence of water. Scientists were cautiously hopeful the rovers might last a few months beyond their 90-day warranty, but nobody expected what happened next. The rovers became some of the most successful missions in NASA history, discovering definitive evidence that Mars once had abundant liquid water on its surface. Fact 74. Opportunity continued operating for 15 years, traveling over 28 miles across the Martian surface before a dust storm ended its mission. After landing in January 2004, Opportunity just kept going and going like the Energizer Bunny of space exploration. It explored craters, climbed hills, and examined hundreds of rock outcrops, discovering minerals that only form in water, such as hematite spheres nicknamed blueberries and sulfate salts. The rover's longevity was partly due to wind events that periodically cleaned dust off its solar panels, restoring power generation. Opportunity drove more than a marathon distance, a feat celebrated by NASA with an actual marathon at the agency's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. The rover discovered evidence of ancient hot springs, gypsum veins that formed when water flowed through cracks in rocks, and clay minerals that form in neutral, non-acidic water, suggesting Mars once had environments potentially hospitable to life. In June 2018, a planet-wide dust storm blocked sunlight from reaching Opportunity's solar panels, causing it to enter a protective hibernation mode. Engineers sent over 1,000 recovery commands trying to re-establish contact, but the rover never responded. On February 13, 2019, NASA officially declared the mission complete. Its twin, Spirit, had gotten stuck in soft sand in 2009 and ceased communicating in 2010, but still operated for over 6 years, far beyond its design life. Fact 75. The Curiosity rover, which landed in 2012, is the size of a small car and weighs nearly 1 ton. At 10 feet long, 9 feet wide, and 7 feet tall, weighing 1,982 pounds, Curiosity dwarfed the previous rovers, representing a completely new class of Mars exploration. The rover landed using a dramatic and unprecedented sky crane maneuver, where a rocket-powered descent stage hovered above the surface and lowered the rover on cables, gently setting it down before flying away to crash at a safe distance. Curiosity's mission was to determine whether Mars ever had environmental conditions favorable for microbial life and to study the planet's climate and geology as preparation for future human exploration. The rover carries 17 cameras and a suite of advanced instruments, including a laser that can vaporize rocks from up to 30 feet away to analyze their composition, a drill to collect powdered rock samples, and a sophisticated onboard laboratory that can identify organic compounds. Curiosity has been exploring Gale Crater, climbing the slopes of Mount Sharp, a 3.4-mile-high mountain in the crater's center. The rover has discovered that ancient Mars had the chemical ingredients for life, including organic molecules, and that a habitable lake and stream system existed billions of years ago. Fact 76. Curiosity is powered by a nuclear battery that converts heat from plutonium decay into electricity, designed to last at least 14 years. Unlike Spirit and Opportunity, which relied on solar panels and were vulnerable to dust accumulation and seasonal sunlight variations, Curiosity carries a multi-mission radioisotope thermoelectric generator, or MMRTG. This power source contains 10.6 pounds of plutonium-238 dioxide, which generates heat through radioactive decay. Thermocouples convert this heat directly into about 110 watts of electrical power continuously, day or night, winter or summer, regardless of dust storms. The system also provides waste heat to keep the rover's instruments warm during the frigid Martian nights, when temperatures can drop to -130 degrees Fahrenheit. This reliable power supply gives Curiosity much more operational flexibility than solar-powered rovers, allowing it to work through winter, operate power-hungry instruments, and traverse farther from its landing site. As the plutonium decays, power output gradually decreases, but the system should provide sufficient power for many years. The MMRTG represents critical technology for future Mars missions, especially human exploration, where reliable power independent of sunlight will be essential. Fact 77. The Perseverance rover landed on Mars on February 18, 2021, carrying the first helicopter ever sent to another planet. Perseverance is similar in size and design to Curiosity but incorporates numerous upgrades based on lessons learned from previous missions. The rover's primary mission is to search for signs of ancient microbial life and collect rock and soil samples that will eventually be returned to Earth by a future mission, the first ever sample returned from another planet. Perseverance carries more advanced cameras, improved autonomous driving capability that allows it to travel up to 394 feet per day on its own, and instruments specifically designed to look for biosignatures, chemical and structural evidence of past life. The rover is exploring Jezero Crater, site of an ancient river delta where water once flowed into a lake, depositing sediments that might preserve evidence of ancient life. Attached to Perseverance's belly during landing was Ingenuity, a small helicopter weighing just 4 pounds, designed to demonstrate that powered flight is possible in Mars's thin atmosphere, which has only 1% the density of Earth's atmosphere at sea level. Fact 78. The Ingenuity helicopter completed its first flight on Mars on April 19, 2021, achieving the first powered flight on another world. This Wright brothers moment for Mars saw Ingenuity spin its carbon fiber rotor blades to 2,537 revolutions per minute, about 5 times faster than a helicopter on Earth, to generate enough lift in the thin Martian atmosphere. The helicopter rose to an altitude of 10 feet, hovered for 30 seconds, rotated to face different directions, then landed softly in the same spot it took off from. The entire flight lasted 39.1 seconds and was watched anxiously by engineers at JPL as data arrived from Mars after the several-minute communication delay. Ingenuity carried a small piece of fabric from the original Wright Flyer, the airplane that made the first powered flight on Earth in 1903, creating a symbolic connection between two historic achievements separated by 118 years and 150 million miles. Originally designed as a technology demonstration with a planned 5 flights over 30 days, Ingenuity has vastly exceeded expectations, completing over 70 flights as of early 2024 and serving as a scout for Perseverance, surveying potential routes and scientific targets from above. Fact 79. Perseverance is collecting rock samples that will be returned to Earth by a future mission, the first samples ever returned from Mars. The rover's sophisticated sampling system can extract cylindrical cores from rocks, seal them in ultra-clean tubes, and store them in the rover's belly. Perseverance has also deposited some sample tubes in a sample cache on the surface as a backup. The Mars Sample Return Mission, a collaboration between NASA and the European Space Agency, plans to send a fetch rover and a rocket to Mars to collect these samples and launch them into Mars orbit, where they'll be captured by an orbiter and returned to Earth, possibly arriving around 2033. These samples will be studied in laboratories with instruments far more capable than what can be sent to Mars, potentially revealing definitive evidence of past life and providing detailed information about Mars's geological history. Scientists are particularly interested in samples from Jezero Crater's ancient river delta, where flowing water may have concentrated and preserved organic materials. The return samples will be treated with the same quarantine protocols once applied to Apollo moon rocks, kept in isolation until proven safe, ensuring no hypothetical Martian microbes could contaminate Earth. Fact 80. NASA has sent more missions to Mars than any other space agency, with numerous orbiters, landers, and rovers. Since the 1960s, NASA has launched over 20 missions to Mars, with varying degrees of success. The agency's Mars program has evolved from simple flybys in the 1960s, through the Viking landers in the 1970s, the Mars Global Surveyor and Mars Pathfinder in the 1990s, to the fleet of orbiters and rovers operating today. Current NASA orbiters include Mars Odyssey, launched in 2001 and still operating, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, and MAVEN, the Mars Atmosphere and Volatile Evolution mission studying how Mars lost its atmosphere. These orbiters serve as communication relays for surface missions, map the planet in unprecedented detail, and conduct their own scientific observations. NASA's success rate has improved dramatically over time, with recent missions achieving remarkable longevity and productivity. The agency's experience with Mars missions has made it the world leader in Mars exploration, with extensive knowledge of landing techniques, operating in the Martian environment, and conducting remote science operations with rovers. Future NASA missions include plans for a Mars helicopter larger than Ingenuity and eventual human exploration of the Red Planet. Fact 81. Voyager 1 launched in 1977, is the most distant human-made object from Earth, now over 15 billion miles away in interstellar space. Launched on September 5, 1977, Voyager 1 followed its twin Voyager 2 into space by 16 days, both embarking on what was called the Grand Tour of the Outer Planets. Voyager 1 flew by Jupiter in 1979 and Saturn in 1980, then used Saturn's gravity to sling itself up and out of the solar system's ecliptic plane, on a trajectory that would take it into interstellar space. On August 25, 2012, Voyager 1 became the first human-made object to cross the heliopause, the boundary where the solar wind from our Sun gives way to the interstellar medium. At its current speed of about 38,000 miles per hour relative to the Sun, Voyager 1 is leaving the solar system, though it won't reach the Oort cloud for another 300 years and won't completely escape the Sun's gravitational influence for 30,000 years. Communication with Voyager 1 takes over 22 hours for a round trip as signals travel at the speed of light across the vast distance. The spacecraft continues to send back data about conditions in interstellar space, powered by decaying plutonium that generates less power each year. Fact 82. Both Voyager spacecraft carry golden records containing sounds and images of Earth, intended for any intelligent life they might encounter. The Voyager Golden Record, a 12-inch gold-plated copper disc, serves as a cosmic message in a bottle, a time capsule of Earth culture launched into the cosmos. The record contains 115 images encoded in analog form, showing scientific diagrams, human anatomy, landscapes, animals, and scenes of human life. It includes 90 minutes of music from around the world, from Beethoven and Bach to Chuck Berry, and traditional songs from Java, Senegal, and Peru. There are spoken greetings in 55 languages, starting with ancient Sumerian and including modern languages from around the globe. The record also contains The Sounds of Earth, a collection of natural sounds including thunder, wind, birds, whales, and human-made sounds like footsteps, laughter, and a kiss. The cover of the record includes instructions for playing it and a map showing Earth's location relative to 14 pulsars. The selection of content was curated by a committee chaired by astronomer Carl Sagan, who saw the record as both a message to potential extraterrestrials and a reflection for humanity of who we are and what we value. Fact 83. The Golden Records include greetings in 55 languages, music from various cultures, and even recordings of a human heartbeat. Fact 84. Voyager 2 is the only spacecraft to have visited Uranus and Neptune, completing a grand tour of the outer planets. Fact 85. The Cassini spacecraft orbited Saturn for 13 years, from 2004 to 2017, revolutionizing our understanding of the ringed planet.
Fact 86. Cassini discovered that Saturn's moon Enceladus has a subsurface ocean that erupts through geysers in its ice crust. Fact 87. The mission ended with Cassini deliberately diving into Saturn's atmosphere to avoid contaminating potentially habitable moons. Fact 88. NASA's New Horizons spacecraft flew by Pluto in 2015, providing humanity's first close-up images of the dwarf planet. Fact 89. New Horizons revealed that Pluto has a heart-shaped region of frozen nitrogen and mountains made of water ice. Fact 90. The James Webb Space Telescope launched on December 25, 2021, and is the most powerful space telescope ever built. Fact 91. Webb orbits the Sun at a point 1 million miles from Earth, where the gravity of both bodies keeps it stable. Fact 92. Unlike Hubble, Webb observes primarily in infrared light, allowing it to see through cosmic dust and observe the earliest galaxies. Fact 93. Webb's primary mirror is over 21 feet across, nearly 3 times larger than Hubble's, and is made of 18 hexagonal segments coated in gold. Fact 94. The telescope must be kept extremely cold, below -370 degrees Fahrenheit, to detect faint infrared signals from distant objects. Fact 95. NASA's Artemis program plans to return humans to the moon in the coming years, including the first woman and first person of color. Fact 96. The Artemis missions will establish a sustainable presence on the moon, including a lunar gateway station orbiting the moon. Fact 97. NASA is developing the Space Launch System, the most powerful rocket since the Saturn V, to carry astronauts to the moon and eventually Mars. Fact 98. Over 12,000 NASA patents have led to everyday inventions including memory foam, cordless tools, water purification systems, and improved baby formula. Fact 99. NASA's annual budget is less than half of 1% of the total United States federal budget, yet drives enormous technological innovation. Fact 100. Since its founding in 1958, NASA has inspired generations to look upward, ask questions, and dream of what lies beyond our world. As you drift off to sleep, remember that humanity is still exploring, still reaching, still dreaming among the stars. Thank you for joining us on this journey through 100 facts about NASA. Rest well and perhaps dream of distant worlds and endless possibilities. Good night.